Unit 9, Section 3, the Great Depression. American industry had grown rapidly during World War I and the first half of the 1920s. The reason why American industry had grown so rapidly was because of the war. America enjoyed a monopoly in large industries, as seen in this picture here, and in agriculture, because Europe was burned up from the war. Its factories were destroyed, crops were destroyed, and America was, for the first part of the war, from 1914 to 1917, stayed out of the war and therefore was unscathed. So its industry enjoyed this. However, because of this success, millions and millions of Americans began to invest in the stock market, invest in the success of big business in America, putting their life savings and their incomes into this stock market. And the problem was, on the good side, in the early 1920s, stock prices climbed greatly. But on October 29, 1929, what became known as Black Tuesday, this house of cards came tumbling down. Thousands and thousands of people lost everything. This picture here illustrates men just standing there in a daze outside the stock exchange, not knowing what to do next because they've lost everything. Here's another picture showing the masses outside. People committed suicide. People went home to their families and packed up and left and became hobos. Men were seen on the street selling apples for a nickel, selling their car for $100. This graph illustrates just how drastic the stock prices fell. Here you can see the peak in 1929, and here you can see the trough a year later. Stock prices dropped over 150 points during that time period. By 1932, just 3 years after the stock market crashed in 1929, stock prices were 1/10 of what they were in 1929. That means that they dropped 9/10 of their value, or 90% of their value in that 3-year period. Banks closed, businesses closed. Bank closings mean that people could not borrow money and therefore could not make large purchases like houses and cars. Businesses closing meant that people lost their jobs. So these two things are going to lead to a decline in the economy that's going to take until World War II and the efforts of a man named Franklin Delano Roosevelt to solve. This ends the lesson on Unit 9, Section 3, the stock market crash.